invaders come and go. It has survived the Greeks, the Mughals, and the British. And for many Indians in Uttar Pradesh, the ones I knew, the latest developments in Delhi, the call centers of Bangalore, and the glitz of Mumbai, all this Western programming on their television is just one more invasion, one more foreign influence of limited scope and self-serving intentions that their family and their caste will see rise and fall. And the remarkable thing is, they're probably right. Most of the books on India contain good news. The economy is growing at a healthy rate, the government in New Delhi is economically progressive, the usual problems with Pakistan, Kashmir, inflation, and labor unrest, if they're not getting better, don't seem to be getting appreciably worse. Nobody would deny India's potential. The news is so good that some Indian politicians have adopted what writer Edmund Luch calls a premature spirit of triumphalism, end quote. But there are some dark clouds on India's horizon, and there are good reasons to fear that India's future is not quite as bright as everyone has claimed. I will mention two threats to development in India, but the list is not exhaustive. The first is education. There's a problem of perception here. Most Indian people that I meet in America tend to be extremely well educated and extremely motivated. And if you didn't spend time in India, some people get the idea that all Indian people must have an advanced degree in science or computers. But that's far from the truth. Higher education is in a state of disarray in many parts of the country, including Uttar Pradesh. A few prestigious technical institutes dot the landscape, and otherwise most universities that I saw were often closed due to student agitations, student government elections, confrontations over exams, and a host of other reasons. Lucknow University was beset by a horrific violence problem. Professors were attacked by students, and the student body as a whole held hostage by a group of criminals who were students in name only. The type of dysfunction that we are used to reading about only in inner city high schools was endemic in universities in some parts of India. I used to tell people that I attended Banaras Hindu University for a year, that I studied at BHU for a year. But I no longer claim that because in my memory, I only remember going to class 4 times. And that was a particularly chaotic time in India in the early 90s. But that was what it was like. Class was actually rare. When you consider that the growth India has enjoyed in the internet and computer industry depends on education, the threat posed by a troubled education system to India's economic options cannot be underestimated. An even more serious problem is in environment, and in keeping with the theme of this weekend, let me read you a quote from the author Jared Diamond, a leading environmentalist, Jared Diamond, who wrote in his book, Collapse, How Societies Choose to Fail or Survive. People in the third world aspire to first world living standards. Third world citizens are encouraged in this aspiration by the First World and United Nations development agencies, which hold out to them the prospect of achieving their dream if only they will adopt the right policies, like balancing their national budgets, investing in education and infrastructure, and so on. Diamond writes, but no one in the first world governments is willing to acknowledge the dream's impossibility. The unsustainability of a world in which the third world's large population were to reach and maintain current first world living standards. What will happen, Diamond asks, when it finally dawns on all those people in the third world that first world living standards are unreachable for them, and that the first world refuses to abandon these standards for itself? In other words, this dream that many of us have for Asia, of a place with a bulging middle class of, say, 500 million Indians and 500 million Chinese, all driving cars and using washing machines, is a pipe dream. The planet has neither enough fuel for that many more automobiles nor enough water for that many more washing machines. And if Diamond is correct in saying that third world development has a looming, impassable environmental horizon, one which we cannot reasonably expect some well-timed technological innovation to save us from, if this is true, then we're all in a sense guilty of selling snake oil. It means that all these economic forecasts in which India and China overtake the West as the world's economic leaders in the next 4 decades are only numerical fantasies, the result of thinking that has taken place in a bubble. I'm not here tonight to play the part of some sort of environmental prophet of doom. That's Al Gore's gig. My point is that there are serious reasons to suspect that the rising tide we so often hear about might not rise as high or reach as far into the interior of India as we've been led to believe it will. And when that happens, the winners will be the political parties that always took the promises of the global economy and the culture of the West with a grain of salt. In the end, if the dreams of progress offered by globalization turned out to be less ideal than promised, most Indians will be left with their family, their caste, and their religion. In this case, India will one day have to get back to its roots. It will have to come home. And what a place to come home to. In ending, let me quote French scholar Romain Rolland, who once wrote, and my experience confirms, that if there were one place on the face of the earth where all the dreams of living men have found a home, from the very earliest days when men began dreaming of existence, it is India. Thank you.